So very good morning to all of you. So we have with us Mr. Sumit Khanna. He's a very dynamic professional with more than 13 years of experience in international sales and marketing, business development and client relationship management. And he has experience of handling business in more than 25 countries, including Spain, Panama, Paraguay, Bolivia, Brazil, Uruguay, Peru, Mexico, Argentina, Chile, China, and so on. It's a long list. And he essentially was responsible for streamlining the business flow and also to represent the organization in various business operations.
See, there could have been a lot of topics to discuss on international trade, and I'm sure since you are a student of international business, most of you must have gone through whatever we are going to cover in these slides today. But I'm going to club each slide with a practical experience, with my own experiences that I have gone through. So, as we all know, international trade is all about two or three or many different countries. Why do we want to do international business? Is not every country has everything they want. We all are interdependent on each other. Some have oil, some have metals, some have engineering products, some have agriculture products. So in order to move further, in order to ensure global development, we all need to be interdependent, and that is when international business started. So since I say the first point is cultural diversity, uh, as I say, lots of different countries are involved in international business. So there are huge culture diversities coming into one play, and it is our responsibility to understand that we are not talking to people from our own culture. They come from a diverse background wherein culture is different, language is different, the way they work is totally different. So we have to respect that. We have to be well versed with that so that when we meet them or we approach them for a business opportunity, we don't fall flat. Uh, Again, language barrier is a very big barrier in terms of international trade. I will give you a small example of the barrier that I faced. When I started traveling to Latin America, there are small countries like Paraguay, Uruguay. These countries have very small number of population. I guess Paraguay is very near to Brazil and it has a population of 5 million people, whereas Uruguay has a population of approximately 3 million people, which is very small in comparison to our country. So these countries are not very much exposed to the Western world. They are, they stick to their own culture and language, and provided they speak Spanish, their Spanish is also not as polished as in Spain or European countries. So when I first visited these countries, it was actually a big shock for me because I was not really aware that when I'm going from India to these countries to do business, nobody, absolutely nobody would be able to speak English there. So, right from the beginning, I landed the country to my hotel, to my first meeting, and then multiple meetings throughout the 30 days schedule that I had. I faced a lot of difficulty, and I had to really, I made a point that when I go back, I am really going to work on it because this way business would not survive. It may start, but it would not be able to, go for a longer period of time because you cannot expect people in these countries to at once start speaking English with you. And it was more of our responsibility to sell our products in these countries. So the basic requirement was Spanish. I came back, enrolled in a Spanish speaking course that was an intermediate level. The next travel was in 4 months. I was not really fluent, but I had a basic knowledge of the terminologies of the products that we were manufacturing, the terms that we use mostly in business environment, and basic greeting. It really helped. Next meetings, the way people accepted me, I could see that we generated a business of around $500,000, which was not too much, but that market was almost zero for us for a long, long time. So we saw that aligning ourselves with the culture, with the language, with the way they work really, really goes a long term way. And, it helps you to get returns in very short time. So that is a very important point to keep in mind. Consumer behavior, like I've said, the international trade environment is very dynamic. There are consumers from varied background. They have their own way of working. They are totally different. They react to a particular product or a service in totally different way than anyone else in another country. So an example for this would be, if you see, we normally discuss in this in the industry. If you see, Americans are known to be very quick. If you talk to them today, you get a reply tomorrow. It's very common. So they are very effective and efficient in terms of communication or the reaction to your queries or your emails. However, when you talk about Japanese culture, they take a lot of time. So it is very well known in the industry. If you are trying to pitch your product to a Japanese company, you should prepare yourself and keep in mind that apart from 4 P's that were taught to us in marketing and management, the fifth P would be patience. So they take a lot of time to consider your product, your service. They don't really take decisions overnight. They reply to you after months, and that is how they work. On the other hand, Latin America, the work culture is totally different. Although we all know it's like a virgin geographical nation nowadays. Most of the countries are aiming at developing their business in Latin America because, one, they are in import-based economies. Not much of manufacturing is happening there. Also, the volume is huge in countries like Brazil, Mexico, Chile, Peru. So you cannot avoid these markets. But the way they work is totally different from what we have in India. Like in India, we are also available after working hours or on weekdays or weekends. You cannot expect people in Latin America to be available to your work, beyond working hours or on Saturdays. Uh, Also, you cannot expect them to revert to your emails or your queries or your proposals overnight or in a gap of 1 or 2 days. It takes a lot of time to work with them, and the best way is to match your speed with them rather than pushing them to match their speed with you, because they really don't prefer this. This is what I've exactly learned while staying in these countries, and it's very important for most of the people who would be joining organizations and would be working with few Latin American countries. Next, very important point is foreign trade laws, regulations, and agreements. So it's a very important point which we will be discussing in future slides also. Like, to do any business, there are laid down guidelines, laws, regulations. Otherwise, it would not be an organized business. It would always be a troublesome business where everyone and anyone would do whatever they want to, and we will not be able to work in a calm and peaceful manner. So governments have laid down various laws in order to execute this business in a proper and professional way. So although there are terms which are followed by various countries, like I'm sure you all are aware of Incoterms, which are globally acceptable, and they are followed by every company, I would say. But then there are certain regulations in every country which are different from our own country. So we have to keep those things in our mind before entering in those countries, because they play a very important part. And if we ignore those regulations and rules, a manufacturer or an exporter can really face big problems. Country's economy, political influence. It is very important that when you are going from your own domestic, country to overseas nations, you should be very well versed about a country's economy. If a country is not really economically sound, they are facing a lot of political problems, a lot of fluctuations in terms of government policies. The government is changing very frequently. If the economy is going up and down, it would not be a suitable time or a market for you to enter. Reason being, you can face a big loss because of these reasons. And at times there are situations when you can really not control these measures, as they are outside your geographical boundaries. And there are insurances, there are measures to control various risks, but few risks are out of control. So it's very important to check a country's economy very well before offering your product or executing any export orders. I have a very good example for the next point, currency fluctuations. This is a very, very important point, which I could not understand when I started working for export companies from India. As I was very new, I could not understand what exactly does it mean, you know. But now I have a recent example of currency fluctuation that I have faced during Corona time. Brazil is one country in Latin America, which is the largest country in terms of geographical boundaries, area, and business volume as well. There are a lot of manufacturing happening in Brazil, and the volume of business is huge because of the population and demand. But there are many troubles when you aim to enter such bigger markets. One such problem in Brazil is currency fluctuation. Recently, the currency, Brazilian real, jumped off to more than double from what it used to be, years back. So normally, in normal condition, the Brazilian real used to be around 2.75 or 2.60 against $1. However, in last 4-5 months during Corona, it jumped to around 5.50 and more, which is really not good for the importers, because now they had to pay more for the same dollar that they were paying half in the past. And I would like to remind you that when this happens, the margins that you calculate on your imports goes for a toss, because considering the competitive market nowadays, no importer or business can expect to lose half of its margin or 50% margin in every business, they are doing. So most of my customers with whom we work in Brazil, they came to us and they told us that since Brazil is facing such a big problem wherein the currency has doubled, it has devalued, they would not be able to import products. They are trying to arrange it domestically, or they have come to a standstill where they really don't want to stuck their money. So these customers also keep an eye on the exporters market. Thankfully, as you must be aware, the currency in India, INR versus US dollar, was very favorable for the exporters in the last 4 or 5 months. It was around 75 and even crossed it for a few days against $1. So it was very favorable for the exporter, because exporters who were getting 68 or 69 rupees against a dollar was now getting 76 rupees against a dollar. So these customers, these clients, these companies in Brazil, they came back to us and they said, if you want to sustain this business with us, since our currency is not supporting us, please pass on the extra benefit that you are getting on INR to us so that we can continue with the business. And that is exactly what we did. We considered INR versus US dollar as 70 and passed on the extra 6 rupees or 7 rupees to our customers just to continue with the business. So we have to be very well versed about currency fluctuations in our own country and other countries where we are planning to enter, because it's an important thing. Without currency, it's all about currency, right? It's all about payments. So if a nation is facing troubles and you have a favorable condition, it's very important that you take a leap, you communicate, and you pass on the benefit to survive in the industry. Next point is market trend. As I have told you, the market trend changes frequently, especially in international business, and also depending upon the nature of the products. Garment industry would be a very good example wherein trends change very frequently. They have their fashion, they make garments for various seasons. So a trend has to be kept in mind. Otherwise, your product can be obsolete in the export market. Also, it is not necessary that the product that you're manufacturing in your home country would be well acceptable in the foreign country. You have to keep an eye on what kind of technology, what kind of features, what kind of taste are preferred in the other countries where you are aiming to export. It has to match with your product you're offering. Otherwise, the product can fail. So market trend is very important and you should keep an eye on that, which is not really difficult nowadays, considering the fact that we have technology, we have Google, we have primary and secondary researches going on that can give us the necessary data. Branding and promotion cost. I have another example, and it's a very fresh example that I have of last night. My company is also working for a global company or an Indian giant called Tata Steel, which is world top 5 largest steel manufacturer. So my company, White Cruise International, is working as authorized agent consultant for developing business for Tata Steel's tools in export market. So yesterday I was speaking with one of the prospective customers from Bolivia, whom we have been chasing, whom we have been talking to about selling our products from India to Bolivian so that they can further sell our products in Bolivian market. Now the customer, after all the negotiations, request about branding and promotion material. It is a very important factor when you are taking your domestic brand to an international product, an international market, because people do not know your product as much as you do in your home market. For any one of us present here, everyone is well aware of how big the brand Tata is, because from morning, like from Tata tea to the evening, like Tata coffee and our Tata cars and softwares and watches, retail, Tata is everywhere. But probably the customer sitting at the other side of the world is not really aware of who we are. So they need to develop your brand from the scratch, and that happens on various level. So it is not just a product and price game. It is much more than that. You have to position your product in the minds and thoughts of your customers, which are sitting far away from you. So either customers in these markets would expect you to bear the cost of branding and promotion, which includes a lot of things. It may be like basic material for promotion like caps, keychains, pens, bags, bottles, jackets, which has your brand and which can be worn by these people in their country to promote your brand. Another could be giving ads in various journals and newspapers as an advertisement, which is very costly to promote your brand in these countries. Another could be your customer or your importer in these countries would want to participate in a big exhibition in their home country and would expect you to bear the cost of those exhibitions and supplying them the required products and marketing material so that the brand can grow. So while you are doing your costing, you should always understand that branding and promotion cost will come sooner or later, and people who do not calculate while pitching their proposal to the clients face this problem, because then you have to do it and you have to do it from your margins, which are not really high considering the cutthroat competitive environment we work in nowadays. Global pricing strategy, universal payment terms. I'm sure you all are well versed with the payment terms which are acceptable in international trade. The most favorable are the advance payments. Then there is LC, letter of credit. Then there are open accounts. There are documents again, acceptance documents against payment, and many more like credit, which I really don't like to talk about because that is where most of the problem starts. We will talk about credit in detail in the coming slides. So pricing strategy is very important. There are different ways to price your product. It depends upon situation to situation. I'll just give you 2-3 situations. In a given market, if I'm going to sell my product, and nobody knows about my product, I have never sold in that product, I have to find out who is selling the similar product in that market at a given point of time. Where is that product being manufactured? For example, I'm going from India to sell my cell phones, and as per my market research, my contacts, and internet and the various data, custom data is available nowadays, I get to understand that in a given country, for example, Mexico, a lot of mobile phones are being imported from Taiwan, China, Japan, and USA. So based on the country of origin, I can think of my pricing strategy. One, since I'm a new player in this market, I have to ensure that my price is not more than every one of them, because then my price would be considered out of the market and no customer will consider me. So another strategy would be a penetrative pricing, where I know that I have to enter this market. The business is very important. I can enter the market, and probably in times to come, I can slowly and gradually increase my margins once the product is accepted very well by the country. In order to do that, I need to know at what prices are my competitors selling in this market. Also, your strategy could be developed on the basis of their countries. For example, if a mobile brand coming from China is selling in this country, I can very well understand that this should be a product which is selling on the basis of its pricing. Similarly, something coming from Europe, I would obviously think that this is more of a quality thing than pricing, because it is a general understanding that any product which is being sold more coming from China would be more for volume and at less price. And for European and American brand, there are much for the quality and the guarantee they offer rather than just for a price. So I have to plan that if I have to compete with a Chinese brand, I have to keep my pricing in such a way, or I have to keep my strategy more focused on the quality, so that if my customer compares my product with the Chinese pricing, that would not be an apple to apple comparison. I would request them to compare myself with a quality brand. So in that case, my product would be compared with a quality brand from America and USA, or from Europe or any other nation, which has a good quality but higher price than us. So in that case, we still have a chance to, stand on quality basis. But in case of pricing, I would not be able to stand with the Chinese pricing. So these are the kind of strategies with which I have to keep in mind when I'm pitching for my product, especially in price sensitive markets. Next point is logistics. This is also a very important part. It's a huge topic, and a lot of advancements have taken place in logistics over the period of time. This is a crucial time when most of the risks and challenges comes up to an exporter as well as to an importer. So it's very important that when we are planning to export our offerings, we should be very well versed about how are we packing our products, how safe our products in the transit, uh, how safe our product would be from our factories or our manufacturing units to the actual port of from where we are shipping our products to the foreign nations. We should also ensure that the shipping lines we are working with have shortest possible routes. They offer detention free periods, which we will talk in the coming slides. So logistics is a very important part apart from pricing and product. Shipping costs, duties, taxes, export laws and regulation. Again, it's when you are choosing your shipping lines, when you are discussing the Incoterms as to who will be responsible for shipping the products, who will be responsible for any loss that may occur due to damage or any other reason in the transit, you have to be very well versed about the cost that is involved. It is also very important that while you are pricing your product, when you're offering your prices to your clients in the overseas market, to the importer, the duties should be very well understood, because there are certain products who attract higher duties, which make your product very costly the moment they land the foreign country and you are unable to sell it. So in those category of product, you should be extra careful while calculating and doing the costing. So you should be well aware of the taxes. That could be import taxes, and also the duties that the customer pays to import the product in their country and to sell further to their customers in a given export location. Just to add, Brazil is one country which is very well known for higher import duties. Most of the product fetch an import duty near to 45 to 48%. You can imagine, if I'm exporting a product worth 10 rupees from here, so it almost becomes, 14.8 or 15 to round figure the moment it touches the foreign ground. And then there are costs like import duties, transport from customs to the warehouses of the customer, then customer margin, and further retailers are selling it with their own margins. So the price that goes into the hand of the final user is way much more than what you had pitched from your own homeland, you know. So those things have to be kept in mind to make sure that your product is not out of the market in terms of pricing. Export licenses and documentation. It is a known fact that in order to export products from your country, you need certain licenses. There are basic formalities that you need to have, and without that, you are not allowed by the government of the country to export these products. So your document have to be in place, and IEC code is just the basic document that any and every exporter must have in order to be able to export their offerings to foreign lands.